Good morning, Stock Twits crew. Happy FAFO Friday, and welcome back to another daily rip episode. I hope everybody's had a good week. It's been another wild one. I feel like I say that every week because we're just having crazy news and crazy data come out every single week lately. But I mean, what a really crazy one from last night. Obviously, we had all this crazy news come out. SPY and the whole market's actually closed up looking really good last night, and then and futures came out, and obviously some downside happened there. So we're gonna talk about all that. We got my right hand man Michael Nauss here. How we doing, brother? How's the week been?
It's doing fantastic. We're doing really well for a potential World War III break. We're at what, Monday's price, so just means nothing on the week so far. But definitely interesting times we live in. It makes it awesome that we do this kind of job because it seems like every time I come on with you guys on the Monday and on the Friday, there's something crazy has happened.
100%. Yeah, I
Interesting
mean, just
times.
to kind of recap from yesterday, the S&P notched another modest gain. And the market seemed to be dragging its feet despite a cooling inflation print and a falling dollar. With Liberation Day 2.0 on the horizon, Trump teasing more auto tariffs. Uncertainty is the theme of the summer, which we've seen over and over. A tragic Boeing crash and mixed reactions to earnings capped the day's news cycle, which is interesting. I'm sure a lot of people have seen the post about that on X lately. So crazy stuff there. But we did have some earnings throughout the week as well. RH reported yesterday flew as much as 19% after hours after swinging to a surprise quarter one profit and posting $814 million in revenue. The company reaffirmed full year guidance, 10 to 13% growth. Stock with sentiment is super bullish there, extremely bullish. Do we have any thoughts on that, Michael?
Yeah, I
I know
just
you're
brought up
not as
the
big on the earnings, but
No, I just brought up the I hope just noticing this gap and the last time it gap, it just faded
mhm,
back down. So I think that's something to watch. It seems like at least recently, gap down stick and gap ups get faded into. So,
mhm.
if you're someone out there and you bought into earnings, you got that gap, that's great. Just, be careful that it seems to have this kind of pattern of fading after these gaps.
Yeah, I agree. Something to watch out for on that one. We also had Adobe report earnings, which is a name that's kind of just been flying lately.
Mm.
But down 1.18%, beat quarter two estimates and raised full year guidance, but underwhelmed due to sky high expectations in the AI software space. What's that chart looking like?
That's what I just sent it very quickly to my robot to maybe
Yeah.
buy a fade on. It's coming right down to the low here where buyers took control last time. So I would watch this and big psychological level. Even though there's so many bots and algos in the market, they still seem to like 100, 200, in this case 400 these prices. So I'm gonna watch that low right there. I think is interesting, but one of those, is it an excuse to sell off a little bit because it's up 20% from lows? It was up 25 yesterday, so it just needs a little bit of a breather. So far, just a pullback and an overall pretty good trend there.
Yeah, I like that spot. You're watching that low because
Mm,
it kind of lines up with that 400 psychological level as well,
yeah.
which I'm sure a lot of people try and buy off of, but then get stopped out like at these, 396, 397 lows. So
Hmm.
I'd be watching for that low to get swept at first. Buyers, get stopped out that have stops sitting right below that low and then generate the liquidity to be able to go higher. But if this just keeps dumping through that low, I'm with you. I would like to see the pullback to those previous lows
Hmm.
on the higher time frame there. So yeah, it's kind of what I'd be watching for. If we can, sweep that low, reclaim 400, I think that's looking pretty solid. But you get displacement under that low, it's not looking as good for Adobe. So
Right.
we'll keep an eye on that. Oh, we got some fun IPOs coming out a lot more lately. I feel like, which Michael, we've been talking about the IPO trades a little bit more over the past few weeks.
Mm,
We got another one. We had Circle last week, or I
yep.
don't even know. Was that? I think we talked about that last week. Um, we have
Yeah, we did.
Chime this week up 37% already, crushed its NASDAQ debut, ending the day at $37 a share after opening at 27.
What do they do?
Valuation
Chime Financial.
18.4. Yeah. What's up? Yeah, look at
What?
that.
Yeah, what do they do? I just never heard of this company before. Any ideas? Financial.
Chime is it's an online banking service of some kind. It's not a real bank, but it's like a bank in its own way. I'm not exactly sure of
Zoomer
the
Bank, is that
details.
like
Yeah,
that's for the
something like that that us young guys start using, but I don't even know
yeah,
exactly
not for us
what
dudes
is
going
going on.
gray.
But the focus is serving the underbanked, avoids traditional interest fee models, basically. So,
Yeah, that just
um,
fell right off the open there.
yeah, not looking as good. I'm always with you with these IPOs. It's like let it rip, the first day, first week maybe, and then I really start looking for the short trade if I'm going to trade it at all.
Hmm.
So,
Well,
you
and
know,
again, I'll keep saying it in case that people haven't heard me say it, but as a quant, it's 80% of IPOs at some point undercut their price. So, if you like the company, if you liked it at 43, you probably definitely like it at 33 right now. So, I agree with you. Give it some time, let it form a base, let it chill out, and you'll get a way better risk reward play on the way back up. And even things like Circle, yeah, it would suck if you really liked it, if you didn't buy it off the open. But say it just kind of bases around this, 110 for a while and then it breaks. Well, you left a lot of money on the table, but your trade's way more sensible than just I like company, I'm going to buy it and see what
yeah,
happens, right?
agreed, agreed. And I don't know about you, Michael Nauss, but I don't know if Circle belongs at $108. We'll see. I guess we had a few
Mm,
more IPOs as well. Circle, I think that's saying this was down about 9%,
hmm.
and then ETOR as well, another new one. eToro, let's see.
Seems
Eh,
like there's some accumulation kind of
yeah,
going
it's
on in this
actually
area,
basing out a
right?
little bit.
So if you like it, this seems like a decent trade. Is you take some around this area, maybe you risk to the lows. You're trying to piece some out up here, just back and forth action. This is way more constructive, right? What you don't want to see, and I think this will be a good example for a while, is like Newsmax and Weeble, right? You don't, because when this happens, everyone gets too excited, and then you get one of these, and then same with Bull, right? Which seems like a little bit. You can see I've got some drawings here. I kind of like the look of this chart here. I obviously don't like it at 80, but now that it's at 10, maybe you take a look at it. And yeah, if that's more of like you don't want to see this, but what was that eToro? That looks way better because it's not collapsing. It's just kind of hanging out right near its IPO price. So this is a little bit more interesting. This blue line is just the anchored view app from all-time highs. See, last time we broke it, we did that little pop. So that's probably how I would play it. Buying above 37, your stops at like or 67, your stops at 57.
Yeah, I would say out of all the newest IPO names we're kind of seeing on our radar, eToro is looking the best for sure in
Hmm.
terms of like actual potential upside here, and me wanting to get interested. So we'll see where that goes. What else we got? Yeah, tragedy in India, the Dreamliner crash. We had a Boeing 787 Dreamliner en route to London crash near Western India, killing nearly all 242 people on board. One confirmed survivor reported a loud noise before impact. BA is down 4.79% on this,
On
dragging the
it.
Dow as investors ramp up.
Another one to look at here, which survived, didn't get hit yesterday, but getting hit today is GE Aerospace. And I think part of the thinking there is that there was some transmission from the cockpit that came in about them not having any power, and GE makes the engines. I guess this is all stuff I've
Mm.
read on Twitter, so take it
Yeah,
for what
yeah,
it's worth.
take it with a grain of salt.
But that's what I heard, and that's why it's getting hit here is because this one might not be Boeing's fault, but it's one of those. It's because they have such a bad rep. They've done the doors flying off planes. We all remember all the stories. Anytime there's a plane crash, it just hits Boeing right away. It's like they are guilty until proven innocent. Whereas GE didn't gap down too much, didn't do anything really bad yesterday. But yet today it looks like there's a little more evidence that it could be them this time instead of Boeing. But both of them are getting hit because with Boeing's history, people are not excited to give them that olive branch that, oh, maybe you didn't mess up this time. They're just kind of assuming they did.
Yeah, I mean, last year kind of ruined it for Boeing. When I remember, I think we started off the beginning of last year with the what was the Alaskan airline door flying off of the plane, and then after that, it was just like this domino effect of all these problems with Boeing, and so people now when they hear any crash, they're just instantly blaming them, of course.
Hmm.
So yeah, interesting stuff there. Some other noteworthy pops and drops we have. Oracle surged after price target upgrades. Larry Ellison is now the world's second richest person. Trump's stablecoin bill cleared a key Senate hurdle, hurting for the final vote. And Victoria's Secret lowered FY profit outlook by 50 million on tariff impact. Tesla
At all
slipped
time.
after Trump nixed California's EVs mandate. That one, interesting there. Yeah, how's Oracle looking? I'm curious. I didn't
Well, I
really look
was
too
yeah, I was
much
just trying to
after.
zoom out because some of these you have
Yeah,
to go, is this all-time highs? Because you got to go back because when you got to go back to .com just to see. Like Microsoft, for example, didn't make a new all-time high till 2016 after its .com implosion. But yes, this is a new all-time high in Oracle's, and can't complain about that, right? Nice solid green candle held for now anyway. Down a little bit because the market's down a little bit, but at all-time highs. Extended for sure.
yeah,
It's almost doubled to get there, but I don't short all-time highs, right? If anything, you want to be buying all-time highs. Maybe you just want to give it a little bit of a breather, though.
yeah. We'll see how that one goes. I know a lot of people were looking for the upside there and for that all-time high break. So maybe we're seeing a bit of selling going on or taking profit from those guys that have been in from the lows. But I'm with you. It's especially like on a stock that's been strong into earnings like that. It's harder for me to think short right at all-time highs. Especially like just initially, I want to see some structure built first, not just we broke all-time highs, so we can get short. So
Hmm.
we'll see how that goes. Let's see how Tesla's looking. I know they slipped after Trump nixed the California's EV mandate,
Tesla.
but Tesla, I feel like is holding up pretty well
It's
since we had that crazy news come out. Looks like it was just a dip buy so far.
Yeah, and it went right into, you see the zone I've highlighted here. This is just kind of the base that it put in around the tariff news.
Hmm.
Broke out of that, came back, held that pretty perfectly, and then a nice bounce from there. So I don't even know. This is down a little bit, but so is the market, and Tesla's obviously high beta to the overall market. So I just don't know if that's something that's like super interesting to me. That gap is related so much to that news as much as it's just maybe moving with the market. If we look at kind of the intraday chart, it's been getting bought up kind of with the market pretty much all morning. So the question I think is more, does the market hold versus anything else?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I haven't been too active in Tesla to be honest, other than just holding my long-term shares. And there's just it's always a bunch of freak out whenever we get some headline like that, and I just overlook it completely every time because nothing really changes with the company. So I mean, I'm not really doing too much with it, but I'm with you. We back tested that spot where we shifted structure to the upside. We're holding that right now. That's exactly where that news dip took us to, and we held that. So I mean, as long as we're holding bullish structure on this name, I really don't care what headline comes out or what negative news may happen.
Mhm.
Even if we end up like losing the bullish structure, it does not matter to me for long term. So
Well,
um,
I look at as a technician, right? It's not
yeah,
the news; it's the reaction to the news.
exactly.
Um, that's for me. It's okay. News comes out, you have the initial reaction. That's usually bots that are just they look to play the news, they look to play it really fast, and then the real news kind of comes in, or the real traders come in later, and they see how they trade it in whatever way they're actually looking to trade it in. So you've got the bots are just looking to make a quick couple percent, right? A little quick scalp. The big guys come in and they're looking to make the big trade. So when that happens, that's what I always look for. So if that initial reaction's bad, but then some buyers come in after that, then just shows you that there's the big people who really take the trades. They're the ones that they waited for that dip and they were excited, and then they came in and bought. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Goldman Sachs cut its U.S. recession odds to 30%. I'm not sure what they were at beforehand. Maybe you remember, Michael.
I thought it was 40, I think. Or maybe that was Kelshi. I always just look at the Kelshi recession odds as opposed to Goldman Sachs directly, or
I
any of
do.
these
I
guys.
do like the Calci. Yeah, I will say it's a little more like I don't know. I feel like it's actually a little more accurate because it's like actually people on there.
Hmm.
But Yeah, Warner Bros. Discovery announced the split into 2 public companies by mid 2026. Interesting stuff there. We had Cardinal Health raised earnings guidance as sentiment turned bullish. Yeah, how's that Warner Bros. Looking? I don't think I've ever looked at this chart, to be honest.
Probably for this reason. This
Yeah,
is the only time I looked at this chart. That was that hedge fund that was leveraging, and then ever since then it's done nothing. Now, it's one of those. I think the news is probably bullish because it's one of those where I think they're splitting it into physical and digital. So if you hold it now, you'll get both, and then they'll probably one company will do better than the other. But just from a technical point of view, it's done nothing for like years. So it's just not something that I'd be too interested in.
Yeah, me neither. Interesting stuff there. Some news you guys might have missed. Trump teased more auto tariffs days after doubling steel/aluminum tariffs. The dollar index hit lowest since 2022 despite light PPI numbers, which we did have that PPI and CPI come out this week. Honestly, I feel like nobody cares about it this week at all.
No. Well, and everything's being overshadowed by what's happening right now. Like,
yeah, it's just volatility. I mean, it's great. It brings volatility for us, and obviously, like that news last night brings volatility. So, as an intraday trader, I love it. There's a lot of opportunity with that, but a lot of lately, all these data points that are coming out just don't concern me. Just bring the volatility. That's all I want, and the numbers that come out, I really couldn't care less because it's just not really impacting things or in the way that maybe things have been impacted in the past. To be honest, it's just not. I used to play a lot more news plays in terms of like, oh, news came out, I'm doing this, and now instead it's more I'm doing this, and news is the volatility injection that gets me to my target faster. Right. So
yeah, and again, for me, it's has a lot to do with the reaction based off of news, right? Like I just mentioned, it's the fact that gold is moving and the dollar is moving is interesting. The fact that Bitcoin is not is interesting as well, right? Because a lot of people were saying, right, the digital gold thing is why Bitcoin wasn't leading us higher when the market was breaking out of that range there, and that doesn't seem to be holding true. So I like when a news event shakes up the market because then you can kind of look at the pieces and try to put the puzzle back together of where people think that this news is going to take the market and where it's going to go. To me, that gives way more information than like what the news is, right?
Yeah, 100%. The Fed's still cautious on how tariffs will influence inflation and growth. Again, I mean, we're going to have some data on inflation expectations today and consumer sentiment. So we'll see what that does. Again, this data just isn't playing a big role in my trading other than, hey, it's bringing volatility. So,
well, and when it comes to, I think I can actually do, yeah, that's just the inflation rate.
yeah,
The because these aren't big swings, right? These are big swings, and even in through here, that's a big number. Who really cares? Like 2% is their target. Who really cares if it's 2 or 2.2 or 1.8 or whatever? And inflation is an easier problem for the Fed to solve, especially right now, than anything, right? If inflation is coming down the way it is, then great. That just means the Fed's going to raise more. It's jobs markets and tariffs and geopolitical stuff. That's where things get complicated.
yeah. Some polls that are on stock twits. Will the S&P 500 break 6147 soon? You want to bring that chart up? See where we're at. Because I imagine with the move down, we're not so close to that anymore as we were.
By when? When was the poll?
It just said soon, but 6147 is the level.
That's it's all-time highs.
All-time highs, yeah. So I mean, I'm still very bullish on this market, even with that news that came out last night. It's not going to change my thoughts too much.
I know I've already told you in the green room there, but to tell the people my bold call. Again, I'd never trade off this. This is just for fun. But I think today there's a good chance we close green and then gap up to all-time highs on Monday. So that would be I
would love to see that.
That would be just because it would be the exact opposite of what people would think would happen because of the news.
True.
And, again, looking at this is the commitment to traders data. they just went from short to long last week, and they're not very long at all. So that would cause a huge catch-up trade. So that's my bet. Again, I'm not going to put any money behind that bet. I'm a
Yeah,
quant, so I'm just going to trade my systems regardless. But I think there's a greater than zero probability that we're definitely up today and all-time highs at some point next week.
I would love to see it. I mean, I've been looking for these all-time highs basically since like halfway through last month. I think it was last month or the month previously where we had that killer month bouncing back from all the uncertainty we had at the beginning of the year. And honestly, when we closed up that month coming into this new one, I was thinking, oh, we need to dip to that 50% retracement, and
Hmm.
we just kept getting farther and farther away from that level. So I mean, I still want to see that hit at some point, but I would bet that all-time highs come first at this point, and then we end up, if we are going to rebalance lower after taking out all-time highs or something, that's where I would kind of look, which is just into that 20,768 on NQ. Right about now, it's less than 1,000 points lower than us, about 900 points. So
The
decent move
most
down, but I feel like all-time highs are more primed up with the way order flow's been and the way the market structure is looking. It's hard for me to think we rebalance to that 50% retracement when the market has continued to show me that bulls are
Well, and they've thrown
strong.
tariff news at it. They've
Yeah.
thrown literal war at it, and it doesn't matter. So, for the people looking, this is just how long or how short the large traders, the large speculators on the S&P 500 are. If you just look at the chart quickly, you can see why I like it so much, because they're quite often wrong. Right? They're quite often getting short near the bottom and getting long near the top. So, yeah, the most poetic thing in the world is if we do end up making all-time highs and then we see this do one of these jumps where everybody is forced to kind of participate, the shorts are forced to get out, the longs are forced to get in, and then we rug pull. That would be, once you start to see these guys get that are wrong so often, right, as long as they could be up here, and then get short right here. So they get short right before we rip. uh, if we get to new highs and then everyone's participating, then it goes. And this is just me being a bit cynical, but this is where I think contrarians generally get it wrong, where they think contrarian means if the price goes up, I'm shorting it, and if the price goes down, I'm buying it. That's not a contrarian. You're just fighting trends. Contrarian is saying I'm going to bet against the masses, right? And this is the masses. You can do this through sentiment. You can do it through COT data. You can do it through whatever you want. But right, if you just zoom in, they're as long as they've been in this particular trend. So a big rip up to get them even more long and then drop. Again, that'd be the contrarian way of thinking, anyway.
Yeah, I like it, especially too, because I mean, I know last year every all-time high was extremely bullish, and I'm not necessarily, I'm going to wait and see what price action is telling me, but
Hmm.
I'm quite bullish just to the all-time highs for as of now. Again, I'm not like a big guy that's like, oh, right when we hit all-time highs, I'm shorting. Not at all, but I'm definitely not as bullish into all-time highs as maybe last year, with the sentiment of things, and just obviously we we do have that uncertainty still in the market that I think just brings more whipsaw price action. So I'm kind of expecting to catch some sort of higher time frame short off those all-time highs. But again, if market structure is not giving me that, if the market's not telling me that, and we're
Hmm.
breaking out and flying and trying to continue, then I'm happy to continue playing the long. But I will say for sure I'm less bullish once we do get to those all-time highs. And then I want to see the reaction, right? I want to see how stocks are trading, how big tech is trading around that area. How is NQ reacting? Are we building structure around these areas that can give me triggers for shorts, or are we just holding and going higher and respecting bullish order flow
Yeah.
every time we dip, right? So it's kind of my thought process. If we do get back to those all-time highs, I would love to catch some bigger time frame shorts off of that area, but if the market doesn't support it, I'm not going to pull the trigger.
I'm I'm really interested in uh, crypto and kind of, or Bitcoin in particular, and the lack of participation here. This is what, to get to those all-time highs and for those to be bullish, this is what I think needs to change, right? The fact that, like, if you go into a shorter term chart here on Bitcoin, this 110 seller was just crazy. We hit 110 and just reversed almost exactly off it. So there was some huge seller that was just battling this 110 area, and then it fell down. Then, of course, this is where the the news happen. But the fact that we're not getting, and I've been saying this for a while, we're not getting the participation in Bitcoin worries me a bit because I don't really buy the digital gold thing yet. Maybe down the road it'll be the digital gold, but we're seeing it's not reacting. Gold is reacting off this news the way gold should. Bitcoin isn't. Bitcoin is a leveraged tech company, right? It goes up when the Qs go up more, and it goes down when the Qs go down, generally more as well. And the fact that we just can't get going here, and just look at the last 3 days. Let's just ignore today because this was the news with the Iran and Israel. But just look at the last couple days here, where the last 3 days in the market have been sideways to bullish, and then we have the last 3 days of Bitcoin, which have been straight down. That's starting to, you would think that if we are going to crack all-time highs soon, this is kind of the knock against my theory. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if there's just one big whale who's just kind of unloading and moving on with their days. But the fact that this can't get going, and the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio is another one that I watch as a risk on, risk off kind of thing. I think you're probably putting more of your coins into Ethereum or Solana from Bitcoin if you're a little bit more bulled up, and then right the other way around if you're a little bit more scared. So yeah, a couple things out there that are just not jiving with my thinking of that we're going to be at all-time highs soon.
Yeah, definitely. I get you there. I'm curious on your thoughts on, because you just mentioned like the digital gold trade, and obviously we have all these different ETFs coming out, whether it's for gold or Bitcoin, things like that. I always find it interesting. I think it's great for financial investors that want to catch those moves, that hate crypto or hate that style of things. But at the end of the day, is you're not actually owning the other asset, right? Like, part of owning gold, part of owning Bitcoin is because like you believe that the US dollar one day is probably screwed, and you're owning this to have that other asset that's going to be valuable later, right? And so that's my only like caveat towards some of these ETFs, whether it's digital gold or like Bitcoin ETFs and stuff like that, is if you are a believer in crypto or gold or whatever, you're not actually buying that asset. You're still, I mean, let's say the US dollar does go up. Wouldn't that mean like gold ETFs, right, would necessarily not be as good because they are under the US dollar. It's not actual gold that you're owning. And so that's like my caveat there, Michael. I'm curious on your thoughts there.
The only world where that would be something that I would worry about is in one that there is no dollar and you're paying everything with gold or
I
Bitcoin.
guess that's
So,
what I mean.
right,
Like,
you've got a
let's say one
physical
day,
piece
like,
you're going to go to the
dollar drop.
grocery store and scrape off a bit of your gold bar and go in. I just don't think, and I'm sure you've tried to buy things with Bitcoins. The payment is incredibly slow. The more active the chain gets, it's really mega slow. It's not a good medium of exchange, right? This is why like Litecoin and all Bitcoin Cash and all these Ripple, all these things existed, because to pay from one person to the other, Bitcoin is really slow. So the only time this would worry me is if there's no dollar, and it's just one of those things where if there is no dollar and it's entirely replaced with Bitcoin, something catastrophic has happened, and what you need then is land and guns and not so much the physical asset, right? You need to be able to grow your own food and shoot people that are trying to eat your food. So the way I look at it is that you're doing a hedge. So say, for example, not even the dollar not existing, but something happens like in Argentina where the inflation just goes absolutely rampant and whatever, because you're still going to be converting that Bitcoin down to dollars to go buy things. You can do that. And as things get faster and faster with like Robinhood and places like this that are going to come out with like credit cards, you could take your Bitcoin, you could move it to the dollar and pay for that faster than you could sending Bitcoin from one person to another. So I get the argument, but just the world that we would need to see would be huge. And say there's no dollar, most people have their Bitcoin on a Trezor or some sort of physical device. That ain't gonna work. If there's no power, there's no mining, there's no right. So yeah, I'm less worried about a world like that and more just kind of I'm using it as a hedge against potential bad things that could happen, hoping that the world is still around to take advantage of that hedge. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's that bell. Good morning. Open the market up. We do have that consumer sentiment data and inflation expectations at 10 o'clock Eastern. So watch out for that. Probably see some volatility, probably see some manipulation in the market. Just
We're
be
getting
careful there.
the initial move, just
Yeah, what do we
right off
got?
the bat there is buying, right? So buying into the open. These green arrows are just an algo that I have about breaking the VWAP. So, but yeah, nice initial move right off the bat there, and looking green so far. So the first area that's going to be super important, I think, to watch here off the open is just yesterday's low, which was pretty much its opening price around 600. You could just say 600 on the SPY. And then 602 is the 2-day VWAP. So this is the average price of yesterday and today. So if we get above that, it means that everybody who had been buying today and yesterday, even through all this war news, is making money. But if you look at us, at least right off the bat here, we're shooting higher with the SPY only down 0.69%, the Q's down less than 1%, IWM doing what IWM does, which is down more than 1%. You can just ignore these. These are all just my robot. My robot is trading aggressively. I think I've heard him scream like 10 trades by now. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, nice little push up. Oh, there's another one. Nice little push up, and there's another one to 602. We can look at some of these if you guys want, but these are
Yeah,
pretty
let's
much
take a look.
all buys. Again, it's all systematic, right? It's all looking for extreme trends that happened yesterday and then reversals in those particular trends. But yeah, so these are all the trades I've done so far today. So GRR, again, these are all just going to be pullbacks in overall uptrends, because the idea is you buy those, you buy them small, but you buy a lot of them. And then eventually over time, the math works out, at least in my testing. There's VRT. So just looking for things that have gapped down inside yesterday's range after a big day yesterday, but have not broken its low. And the reason for that is just because the SPY broke its low. So anything just by definition that hasn't is going to be relatively strong. So that's what my robot's doing now. So what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trades already in the first 2 minutes of the day.
That's awesome. I love that.
So
It's
we will
completely
see.
systemized. That's amazing.
It's the way to do it. Oh, there's another one. It's the way to do it. So yeah, we got to that 600, a little bit to that 60. Well, we got 650, and then started to reverse from there. So that I think is going to be interesting. I want to take a look at gold too, just to see what's going on there. And it's pulling back a little bit, but not too much. Like you'd almost want to see a collapse here in gold at these prior highs, just to show that they're not worried. But we are seeing that in oil, right? So I talked a little bit about right. Oil came very close to its anchored VWAP from all-time highs, and then just reversed from it directly. And then right off the open, we're starting to get a little bit of a sell here as well. So it looks like everything that got crazy overnight is fading back in. And then yeah, that'll be interesting to see if are these big numbers that are coming, the consumer expectations and consumer sentiment. I don't know.
I mean, usually they're not too crazy. Usually it's just a little bit of a volatility blip in the market. So
Yeah,
the numbers I'm not too concerned about.
Yeah, this is how TradingView. I love how TradingView ranks them. They just use your cell phone bars.
Yep.
So 3 bars is something that is market moving, right? 1 bar no one cares about, and in through here just some different. So this one seems like it could be, but I think everything today gets completely overshadowed with the overall market. I don't think we care too much about what consumers are thinking about when there's literal war going on.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, maybe you see certain stocks, like, I don't know, more retailers get more of a reaction off that. I don't know, but I really wouldn't be expecting too much there. But you want to run through some tickers, some other tickers you're watching as well?
Yeah, and I got the chat open here. Someone's asking about QBTS. Full disclosure, I own some QBTS, so I always say that just so you know where my bias is. Right? I think I bought it on stream here with you guys. I think I mentioned it in this area. I believe I remember, and I've just been holding it ever since. Sold a little bit into this pop, and now just kind of watching these lows. I think it's pretty easy if it holds these lows, then I think you're good to go. And if it breaks these lows, it's probably going to come back and fill the gap, and that's a pretty sizable move. There's a GameStop trade. It's funny because okay, I'm short GameStop. I was about to say, am I long GameStop right now
Or
after just
GameStop.
talking smack on stock twits about it? But no, I'm short, so I'm okay with that. Which is just it's a hilarious world being a systematic trader because when I heard so anyone who trades through interactive brokers know there's like a bit of British man that just yells order filled every time there's uh, an order filled, and then I saw GameStop pop up. I don't know. I'm not looking at my account. I don't know if I'm long or short it. I know I'm in it. And then you had to go and look at the chart to see if you're long or short. It's very different from how most people react. But yeah, for the next little bit, if anyone wants anything us to look at, let me know. Someone said Oracle. We already went through that at all-time highs, and wow, gapped up today and is holding those
Going.
highs in this tape, right? It gapping up. That's pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Let's take a quick look at the heat map too, and just see what could be holding us. So, energy obviously higher, right? We saw the move in oil that happened. That makes perfect sense. Uh, what is this guy? Oh, LMT, Lockheed Martin, and that's Raytheon, RTX. So, the defensive names moving higher. Healthcare, some healthcare names moving higher. Lilly, I know both me and Leah are in this one. And then Palantir, which is in tech, but from what I know about the company, should probably be in defense instead of in tech. So some names that are doing well. Not a whole lot of red other than Visa and MasterCard. I don't know why they would care about 5% to both of those.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
weird.
there must be another bit of news and not so much war reaction there. But yeah, let's take a look at actually the defensive. So ITA is one of my, I own some of this, but this is the defense ITA. It broke all-time highs way back here. This is when Trump announced that he was going to do more spending in defense than like any president before. Um, and then ever since then, it's been a nice trend. So a little bit of pullback the last few days, but doing okay, but not as well as I would thought. So LMT's Lockheed Martin, they make um, bombs essentially, and this base has been going on here forever. This is January, so it's done nothing the entire year. It looks like it could be breaking out here to get
It's
a little bit of
trying.
a pop. And then what was the other one? RTX.
Yeah, Raytheon. This one looks pretty
That one,
decent.
yeah, new all-time highs I think on Raytheon. I
I'm
think
not
these are
sure. I would
all-time
think so.
highs.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Cheese.
Wow. That's crazy.
130,000% return. Yeah, I'll take that. That's
Oh, yeah. Let
crazy.
me just go back in time to before I was born.
Yeah, and a dividend all along the way, right? So that's not even the dividend adjusted price. That's just it is. But yeah, so that's an insane price there. So keep an eye on those guys. I also think more and more we're going to see cybersecurity moving with defense because in my mind, as someone who knows very little about these things, that just makes sense that the war and the world now is more and more technological, more drones, things like that, that we would see more cybersecurity moving with defense. Because again, you can't have one without another. It doesn't matter if you've got the best bombs in the world if they've got some hacker that can make the bombs theirs. And then what are these? You know, any of these drone? Arcat, I think, is one. Some of these
Arcat.
drone names might be
I've seen
reacting.
Red
So
Cat
Arcat
before.
was
Yeah,
one.
I've seen them.
So that's a drone name. I'm looking over here. I think UMAC. Maybe the chat knows too. UMAC is another drone name. These, I think, they're not in these defensive ETFs, but they kind of should be, right? Because we saw with the Russia-Ukraine war, drones are becoming very, very prominent way to do this kind of battle. And I think we've even seen it in the Middle East where they're sending drones into um, Israel to try to get past the Iron Dome and all of that. So a lot of that holding up again is something that I think you gotta keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely add it to the defensive sector. Even though those aren't really. God, I can't believe there's not like an ETF of all the drone names by now. Call it ticker. I don't know, ticker DRON.
Well, there is. I just found about UFO the other day, which is one that has
That
all of the space. So Rocket
okay?
Lab, ASTS, all of these.
I like
And
that.
again, I've mentioned these, and this is a good looking chart too. I've mentioned these ETFs a lot because uh, I like them more and more. The more these thematic ETFs come out, the more I think they're the perfect investing vehicle for everybody. And the reason for that is that how mad would you be if you took like a big bet on robotics, but the one company you picked, there was like some accounting fraud, or the CEO did something stupid, and then you lost money, even though you were dead on about the way to trade, like PSIL for psychedelic movement, right? Again, UFO for space. Like, it would suck if you were like, yeah, these private space travel companies are the future, and you were right about that, but the one company you picked didn't end up working out well, right? So you picked ASTS and Rocket Lab did well or whatever. So this is just a way to make sure you're going to lower your risk, you're going to lower your potential return, but you're going to lower your risk as well.
Yeah, I like that because there's not, especially right now with the space trade, I don't feel like there's a whole lot of certainty in like this is the company to be invested in later
Yeah.
on. There's a lot of good ones out there, but you like you said, you just don't know. So to be able to spread yourself a little thinner and be a little more broad with what you're investing in, I think is definitely better, at least at this time until there's more certainty there.
Yeah, it's again, it makes your life a little bit easier. Again, you are capping potential returns, right? Because in my example, if you picked ASTS and Rocket Lab was the crappy company, and all the contracts and everything went to ASTS, then by owning the ETF, again, you're diversifying risk. But anytime you diversify risk, you're diversifying return. But as somebody who just likes to bet on themes, like the stuff like this is amazing, because generally speaking, it's a great way to trade because we see these themes come and go. Like, China was really hot there for a while, and I still own some, but I had like an irresponsible amount of FXI, like I think in this area right here, and then sold a bit on the way up. And so you get these themes that are really hot, and sometimes it's just easier to pick one of these as opposed to pick the actual stock that's going to perform the best, right? Where um, we
Yeah,
take a look at the markets, they're continuing a little bit of a rebound
we are
here.
trying.
So opening drive is higher. Now we're just consolidating. Even the IWM is participating, and the IWM kind of sucks, but very interesting zone here. I'm watching the IWM very closely because I think at some point we need small companies to participate in this rally. We've had years and years and years of the only thing we care about is Nvidia and a couple of these other big guys. At some point, I think you need the little guys to hang out. I think you need, some amount, a non-zero amount of mom and pop companies, and then also these are um, also we need the mom and pop companies, but then also the interest rate sensitive companies. So if you look at the makeup of the IWM, a lot of tiny banks, these regional banks, and a lot of biotechs, which are both super interest rate sensitive. Um, and for those to do well, it's kind of like taking a bet on interest rates. Last thing, and this rant I've been going on just as I'm watching, this is what I do when the market opens. I just go through
Oh, I
to
love
see.
it.
Bitcoin is actually doing really well here. Like, nice
Solid.
opening push up there.
It's just chilling at 105. It's awesome. I think we back tested like last week 100K and held
Yeah.
up pretty well.
Yeah, it's just concerning me, the lack of follow through on the all-time high break,
Yeah.
right? So we did this all-time high break, and then we failed, and then we tried again, and then we failed. I just hope this is like a consolidation before pushing higher as opposed to a failed breakout, because if you look kind of just back in history, every time we attempt to make an all-time high break and fail, it's pretty ugly. And generally speaking, when Bitcoin ends up breaking, it I'm used to it just
She
doing
goes.
this, right?
She
Where it
goes.
breaks a level and just rips. And then right? Same thing in through here. Broke all-time highs and it just ripped. And the fact that we're not getting that's getting me a little bit worried. I think every rip is going to be smaller than the one before, just because there's so much institutional participation. I think the days of Bitcoin like tripling in like a month or even in a year is over. I think we're looking for now 10, 20, 30% gains, which is still amazing. But yeah, the fact that we've kind of failed to really get going is a little bit concerning to me.
I mean, yeah, when you see that every time we've really got going, it's pretty instantaneous and it's not
Yeah.
taking too long. And now we're taking way too long. I mean, I get your worries there. Makes sense.
My
We'll see what happens. You know, if we can take a dip, I'm looking to take advantage of it if it's a real solid dip. We got fart coin too, huh? That's your favorite
I
chart. Favorite chart.
I love this. I love this chart, and I love this as just a sentiment indicator, right? Again, my theory being, as long as fart coin's worth more than $1 billion, so there's a billion tokens, billion fart tokens out there. So whatever the price is, it's that billion, right? So it's the 13 cents, so it's at 1.13 billion dollar market cap. You got to imagine this is the first thing they sell, right? You'd have to imagine that if I'm worried about the economy, this thing's going back to like, 100 million market cap or 200 million market cap, not $1.4 billion in market cap. So I leave this up here to take a look at it. And same with a lot of these other meme coins, like the coins that do absolutely nothing, like Pepe and Fart, and like this is just line go up for the sake of line go up. I don't put Ripple or Ethereum or even really Doge as much in that area, although probably should with Doge. But yeah, it's maybe some of these Axie, like the tokens that are claim that they do something.
Yeah,
Maybe they'll hold on, but like you got to imagine this is the first one to go. Like if I'm sitting there and I just lost my job and I'm looking at my portfolio, and if I have any amount of fart coin, that has to be the first thing to go to feed my
absolutely.
kids, right? Like it just has to.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. This market right now, Apple is just dumping from the open, while the rest of the market holding up. We'll see
Hmm.
if they get it dipping as well. I wonder what Microsoft's doing. Microsoft holding up as well. Apple's the only one taking it on the chin here, under $200.
Yeah, Apple, Nvidia is down, but I think it gapped that way.
Yeah.
Dell, someone having Dell down 3%.
Ooh.
Healthcare is actually doing really good. So this is Lilly. This is a trade that I'm in. But it's just been relentless from this zone. That's my whole synopsis for buying it there, right? Is big level support. Uh, so healthcare doing very well across here, which makes sense because healthcare obviously shouldn't care about any kind of Middle Eastern tension by any means. But we're seeing a couple of sectors that are moving higher. So oil and gas equipment, oil, like a lot of these are going to be energy related. Defense, that's green today. XAR is another defensive ETF, so that's there. And then consumer staples, which that's not, you don't want to see that one green. Right? You want to see that one red. But yeah, the SPY is just chilling. And this is the other thing that could happen if my work going green today doesn't. It could just be that we do nothing today, and that would be very frustrating, I think, for all the bears as well, who look at it and say, "Oh, we had a war, and we just have an incredibly boring, unvolatile day." That's an option as well. That everything's kind of taken place, and we go from there. To be honest, I think even more than the war, the market is interested in the trade deals with China's and trade talks there. See if that ends
Definitely.
up getting resolved, right?
Every time we hear something about that, market goes wild. So I definitely think that's what we care about the most right now in terms of like all of retail, and who's reacting to these headlines coming out.
Hmm.
That's probably top of the list.
Well, I'm just taking a look at some of these trending names. We were talking about space earlier, and ASTS. Look at that rip off the open.
Feeling
This
good.
chart has been crazy. Not a
I
red
feel like every
day,
time I've looked at ASTS the past few times, it's had this look on it.
and that's
Just
a new
looking.
all-time high. So again, full disclosure, I own some of this guy, just on this kind of trend line break. But yeah, new all-time highs. So be interesting to see if that can stick the landing there. But yeah, what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Look at
6,
that.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 green days in a row. Man,
And they're all like fairly strong. I know we started slowing down on
Hmm.
a few of those days, but most of those days have a decent amount of momentum. It's not like it's getting weaker every day it goes up. You know what I mean? Look at
Yeah.
that today's candle. If we can get continuation and close strong, that's the strongest candle of the bunch, pretty much.
Well, and I actually have a system that looks just for this, where because a lot of systematic trading is looking for unusual things and taking them a lot, and the fact that an unusual thing being the open and the low is pretty much the same price, right? It just means that to me is something that my systems look for kind of algorithmic buying. Right? I think it's like maybe 1 cent it ticked down or something before it ripped. Uh, just because that's generally not retail that at the exact opening print buys a bunch of shares. Again, that's we're looking for always signs of institutional involvement and institutional buying. That one is interesting to me, and so if that holds today, that's going to be one of those candles that I've tested, and there is some edge in buying. When there's the low and the open are the same price, and same if when the high and the open are the same price, and the thing just kind of craps all day. So this will be interesting. And then of course all-time highs, right? You always want to be long or buying all-time highs, because you know that everybody that is short, I think on ASTS the last report showed it like 25% short. um the fact that everybody is short and it's at all-time highs, they're both short and wrong, which is a perfect recipe for something awesome to happen.
100%. Yeah. I don't know if you've looked at UNH at all. This poor stock doesn't move, Michael Nauss, except for yesterday or like the past 2 days. It's actually started to do something, but
Hmm. A little bit of
the
a
stock
break.
is just dead to me until it isn't, But oh gosh,
Well, our
it
friend Leah got this right. I bought shares. I'm long in, I think like the 275 ish area.
a great
Sold a
price.
little bit there. Yeah, and it was kind of bought. I think I bought a little bit this day, and then I bought a little bit this day, so my average was kind of somewhere in this area. And I sold a little bit when I was up a bit of money on it. But yeah, I'm with you. And Leah, again, I think did the right thing where um she just sold puts and just
Yeah,
collected the. So this doing nothing thing is benefiting her and frustrating me. And it could just be the case where now they're waiting for a trial to resolve, or a trial, right? Like a lot of bad things happen. So the question is it just going to do this until the next big news event that says, right? Because there was a DOJ investigation, I think, or something. I hope not, right? Because this is the problem with discretionary trades, because most of what I do is systematic. And with discretionary trades, it becomes very hard to say, when do I get out of this thing, because it's not moving. Um, if I was looking to enter, I'd probably just like set an alert like above like 325 or something
yeah.
and say, just don't look at it until that happens. Because yeah, it's really been weighing down the Dow a little bit as well, because the Dow's been underperforming the rest of the market, just because it's a large component in the Dow. I know I'm probably the only guy here and in the chat room that still looks at the Dow, because you kids will only want to look at the Nasdaq, but it's an important index. Might be one of the most important indexes out there. Um, SPY doing nothing still. IWM selling, so poor small
I don't
cap
know that
still
I'm
can't get
trading today.
going.
After seeing those moves overnight, I doubt I'm taking any moves today. I mean, if I get something very clear, I'm happy to try it, but I've already made some good trades this week. It's Friday. We have big news come out. I don't know that I want to really get too crazy with it, but if I do
I
take
don't
anything, be looking into 10 o'clock with that data.
That's the other thing too, is I wanted to point out. So thanks for doing that. But I agree that everything that's kind of happening before 10 could just be noise,
Yeah,
right?
a lot of the time.
Could be one of those, because the all the invasion stuff happened last night, so that gave a lot of time to price that into the market. So now it could just be chopping around and then waiting. I just know there's a lot of hedge funds and large institutions that just will turn on their bots after, like if they have a buy program and they want to buy a bunch of stocks, they just wait until after some sort of major news event, because your hope is, if you're looking to buy a bunch of names, that at in 5 minutes from now you get this big news event and that tanks the market, and then you can turn on your buy bot and you can get a way better price. So like, sometimes even though it's not going to be important to the market, it can be the thing that kind of keeps everyone on the sidelines until, right, there's the okay, now we can take the trade based off what we're seeing there.
Definitely. I tend to do that a lot. I mean, definitely times where I'm in a position potentially going into open or before 10 o'clock, but precisely for that reason is because, a lot of the time right into 10 is when they're kind of given that manipulation move to, like you said, get better filled orders. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking to follow those guys, right? I'm looking to trade with those guys, not against them. And so I'm generally waiting for that 10 o'clock to open up just because that's when we normally see those types of moves. But
Yeah.
there's definitely times where, I'm in something going into open, but love to wait till 10. It's just, I feel like that one little change in so many people's trading can save them a lot of money. Just waiting 30 minutes, after the market open.
Yeah, it's also, again, I'm a quant, so this doesn't apply to me very much. But people who trade a lot on feel, um,
Oh yeah.
there's no way you're getting the feel off the open, like in the first minute. Like, so yeah, a lot of people I know who are discretionary traders will do that same thing, and just for they want to watch the price action develop. They want to kind of get in the zone with the market, get in touch with the market, kind of see what day do they think is going to be a choppy day or a big trend day or whatever it is, and then they make some trends. And I think the only thing that stops people from doing that, because you're right, it's probably the right move, is just FOMO, right? They're worried that there's going to be, because every now and then you do have the days where it just rips off the open and then nothing happens and you've missed the move. But I think just as you
Those are days where we
get
don't get to
old,
participate, right? Like,
right?
sucks, whatever, move on. Always
And
another day.
that's very hard for a lot of people, that whole just to be okay with the fact that you're not going to make a trade today, you're not going to make any money, you're not going to lose any money, but you're just kind of not going to trade.
It is difficult, but something I think I've gotten a lot better at, and not because of even necessarily doing it more, but simply just changing my mindset towards it, right? Versus like traditionally we're always thinking like I want to make money, right? I want to make money, and of course we do. But changing my mindset to like, oh no, I just want to follow good habits. I just want to practice good habits that reflects my trading plan and follows my trading plan.
Hmm.
And that makes things a lot easier, and it makes it a lot easier to not be over trading or taking trades that you shouldn't be. You know what I mean? I can sit and watch this market, and if there's nothing, it doesn't matter if we're moving a ton or not. If I don't have clarity, I can sit out and not care about it, because I'm getting satisfaction from practicing good habits. I'm not getting satisfaction from making a ton of money, even though it's what we want to do, of course, right? But it seems that, I know you know this, Michael Nauss, the more we think about making money when trading, the less and less you tend to make. The
Yeah.
more you just process, follow my system, play that, that's the more you succeed every single time. I see that with every person I've ever like talked to about trading or talked to about their past in trading and how they've grown. That's always the like big deciding factor on what changed them from like making no money to making consistent cash in the market. So
Yeah,
something to think.
it's it's just hugely important, and mainly because we can't predict anything. It's one of those, uh, there's a great book by, I think her name is Annie Duke. She's a poker player. Um, and it's thinking in systems, and that was the idea behind that, where it's just, instead of me trying to think what's going to happen when I take this trade, will I make or lose money on this trade, you're thinking about, can I develop a system that is right enough that over 1,000 trades or 10,000 trades I make money. And that different switch of thinking of, I don't care what happens, like all those trades that I showed you that I took, I don't care what happens today. Like, obviously, I'm a human. I would like to end the day with more money in my account than I started. But the whole point, the whole thing I'm looking to do is saying, if I did this same thing over and over again for a long period of time, would I have more money than not? And is it worth my time doing that, as opposed to just, owning the S&P 500 and walking away? And that switch of, I want to make money right now on this particular trade, which, even if you're right 90% of the time, which nobody is, you're not gonna, you still don't know whether you're gonna make money on this particular trade. So because there's no way to know it, it's one of those things I just kind of shut it out of my brain and just say, I'm going to go from there. Well, there's your. I know we're ending soon, but there's the number that just came out. You can see a little bit of reaction there to the SPY, a little bit of a push up. We'll see if that holds from that consumer confidence numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, we will see what the day holds. We did sweep out those overnight highs, those Asia highs, and on NQ, and not getting above them quite yet. But maybe this data point gets us up and over it. I know ES hasn't quite tapped that level yet, so we got a little divergence between the two assets. But yeah, great morning with you, Michael Nauss, as always. I hope
As
the
always.
audience enjoys the trading day. Be safe. I don't know if I'm taking anything. I've traded well throughout the week. I don't really want to jeopardize those gains, as I know. I know you're always talking about that too, Michael, like keeping those gains. I mean, I know you're taking trades, but you're obviously having strict risk management with it. So never want to end a Friday on a bad note. It's always the worst going into the week.
No, when I was a discretionary trader, I did the same thing where, because you don't want it's partly being down money, and then it's partly the fact that you made poor decisions that I think ruins your Friday. For me, it's just because I can blame it on the bot. If I don't
Yeah,
make money today, I don't have to take it like as personally.
I guess you. 100%. Well, audience, appreciate you guys joining. Make sure you're liking and subscribing on the Stock Twitch channel. We will see you guys back next week. Next Friday, we'll be back on. I know Michael Nauss, you'll be doing a show earlier in the week. So everybody tune into that, and we'll see you next week. Enjoy the trading day.